Can you imagine the time might come when the US dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency?
I think that time will definitely come, but the question is what overtakes it as the world's reserve currency.
The Israel-Iran war has seen investors rush for safe havens. Can we expect the ongoing instability in the Middle East is going to keep America's dollar higher than it has been in recent months?
Yeah, generally when we see uncertainty and instability anywhere in the world, investors rush for safe havens, and that's generally the US dollar and US treasuries. But obviously they've had a bit of a pop, but we're not seeing the inflow into those assets we'd normally expect given this uncertainty, given what's happening in the medium-term picture in the US now.
Before the latest outbreak of hostilities, the US dollar had been weakening against a basket of currencies, including the Australian. This had been widely understood as something Donald Trump wanted to see. Why does the US president contend that the strength of the US currency is a problem for America's economy?
I think it's all to do with Trump's fixation around the trade deficits. And obviously if the dollar is strong, it's negative for the deficits, and if the dollar is weak, it's positive for the deficits, i.e. if the dollar goes down, the US will export more, and it will make the trade deficits numbers much better. So, during his first presidency, he wanted the dollar weak, and he got that, and he's being very clear, and everyone in his administration is being clear. I think it's probably the only thing everyone in his administration is being clear about, that they want the dollar weaker on a medium-term basis.
And so if Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill passes, do you see it supporting the economy or making the country's fiscal problems worse?
I think it will do both. I mean, it's a massive influx of cash into the system. Obviously, some of it is just recycling of the tax cuts that he announced in his first term that are due to roll off. Some of it is new money coming in. I mean, the estimates on the size of the bill are somewhere between 3 and 10 trillion, so it's very, very material. But the other issue is there's numerous clauses within the bill which are very negative for foreigners. For example, 899, which potentially means we're going to get withholding tax on US treasuries. I mean, those are negative for foreigners. So you get the situation where the US economy could actually do quite well, but the foreign investment coming into the economy slows down.
So you can see investors shying away from the US if that were to pass?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite clear from the administration, the US administration, that it wants investors, overseas investors, to shy away from the US. By introducing the tariffs and targeting those trade flows, it means that there's less trade that happens with the rest of the world. Therefore, there's less money that needs to be recycled into US dollars. And then with the touting of capital controls, etc., I mean, it seems very clear that the US administration wants less foreign investment into the US. But ultimately, that's a big problem because foreign investors own roughly $30 trillion of US listed assets and another $30 trillion of unlisted assets.
And so where are investors likely to look if not in the United States?
Well, up until now, up until the last few months, there has really been nowhere else you'd look to put your money instead of the US. Obviously, the US has got a very strong economy, and you've got the Mag 7 there, which are a very compelling investment case. But with what's happening in terms of uncertainty around the administration and their policies, that's causing people to look elsewhere. And the two key places people are looking are Europe and Japan. Obviously, Europe has a massive fiscal pulse, which is exciting equity investors. And we know that Japan is growing quite strongly at the moment and inflation is picking up. And so both of these economies are emerging as contenders for the marginal dollar that flows around the world instead of the US now.
What would it take for Australia to look increasingly attractive to overseas investors?
Idiosyncratically, Australia is doing the right thing, but I think the flows we'll see will all be around what's happening with the US dollar. So I don't think anyone's going to look at the Australian economy and growth levels relative to the rest of the world. I think they must invest here because I would argue there's more compelling investment cases elsewhere, and that's really to do with the fiscal pulse you're seeing elsewhere.
Can you imagine the time might come when the US dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency?
I think that time will definitely come, but the question is what overtakes it as the world's reserve currency. It's very difficult to see any existing currency, fiat currency, for example, the euro, Swissy, yen, etc., replacing it. It's more about growth of hard assets. You can see now that the second largest asset in foreign central banks' reserves is gold. And so there's a compelling case for gold and digital currencies to take an increasing share of that safe haven status.
Okay. Interesting times. Vimal Gor, thank you.
Thank you.